Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Kyle. I'm with High Point Scientific, and you're looking at a live view of a comet in the nighttime sky. This is Comet C/2022 C3 E3, ZTF. Quite a handful of names there. Some people have just taken to calling it the Green Comet for short. I'll be your host tonight as I take your questions about astronomy, the nighttime sky, and the universe. And this is a beautiful comet to behold in the nighttime sky. As far as comets go, this is definitely one of your more garden variety comets. We've had comets that are much brighter out there. Those of you might remember about 2.5 years ago, we had Comet Neowise grace our skies. That was a beautiful pre-dawn comet that was visible for Northern Hemisphere observers. And then before that was 2007, where we had Comet Magnat that was visible in the Southern Hemisphere, as well as Comet Lovejoy. And then before that, you have to go all the way back to 1997 to see a comet of true spectacular intensity visible over the Northern Hemisphere, and that was Comet Hale-Bopp in 1997. And that was preceded, obviously, by Comet Hyakutake in 1996. So it has been a while since we've had a comet in the nighttime sky that was visible throughout the entire night. And this is no Hale-Bopp, but that being said, it is certainly a worth to look at. So let's see if we have any questions coming in on the chat. Let's see. But again, if you have any questions about astronomy or the nighttime sky, please feel free to let me know in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. 1 second while I actually pull up the comment queue. Comment. See, a question coming in is, where am I located? This live stream is being hosted from Tampa, Florida. If you're wondering where this comet is located in the nighttime sky, that's a great question. Let me turn down the music here. If you're wondering where this comet is located in the nighttime sky, it is actually located very close to Ursa Minor, or the Little Dipper. It is actually very close to one of the brighter stars in Ursa Minor, so right now is a great time to be able to go outside and take a look at it. We see a question from C Astronomy on YouTube, and they're asking, what equipment are you using tonight? I am using a 200 to 400 millimeter lens, as well as a Nikon Z7 II. Question from Kelly. They're asking how far away it is. If memory serves correct, and I can look online just to verify, it is about 0.32 astronomical units. I don't know what that is in kilometers or miles off the top of my head, so you'll have to do the conversion yourself. But it is about a 30% the distance between the Earth and the Sun. If you're wondering if you can see this comet, the answer is yes. If you live in the Northern Hemisphere, no matter where you're located, you will be able to see this comet in the nighttime sky. Again, it is not a very bright comet. It is a garden variety comet for sure. That being said, it is still worth a gander if you have a pair of binoculars. Now, a telescope will be able to resolve a lot more detail. If you've ever seen a comet in the nighttime sky, and I always love hearing people's experiences with astronomy and their exposure to astronomy, especially in the 90s, if you had the opportunity to see Comet Hale-Bopp, let us know in the chat if you've ever seen a comet in the nighttime sky. My first comet I ever saw was Comet Neowise, and I saw that visible when I lived in Illinois back in 2020, and that was a beautiful sight to behold. Got a question if I'm wearing flip-flops and shorts while we are freezing out here. Not necessarily. I mean, it's a little chilly tonight for Florida standards. It's in the 40s, so, you know, not quite flip-flop weather, but perhaps not freezing. Pauline asks, says, I see a spot in the middle, nothing moving. That little fuzz in the middle is the comet. Again, this is not a very big comet. It's certainly no great comet, but that little smudge in the center is fairly accurate to what you would see in a telescope. So we hope to be able to bring that experience. You might be able to see pictures online of comets with an incredible tail, this beautiful shot of a comet. That's only after a lot of post-processing with stacking and getting all that fine detail in the comet's tail. That is not something you're going to see through your eyepiece through a telescope. This is more accurate to what you'll actually be able to see if you look at it through a telescope or a pair of binoculars. You will see a faint fuzz in the sky. That being said, we might see it move a little bit. Got a question on YouTube from Alex, and they're asking, any chance seeing it with the naked eye tonight? Yes, provided you have dark skies. This comet is visible in the northern hemisphere, and it is barely just at the threshold of naked eye visibility. So if you have dark skies and you know where to look, try to see this comet in the skies. Again, this comet is making its first pass through the solar system in nearly 50,000 years. We have no records to be able to show that anybody on Earth at the time saw the comet, and if they did, they probably didn't know what they were looking at. But we can actually take this comet's position over time and see how its observation arc has been over the last about year we've observed it, and we can use that to be able to figure out when the comet last passed through the solar system. And that's how we're able to come to the conclusion that the comet last passed through the solar system about 50,000 years ago, coming from the Oort cloud. Question about the focal length. The focal length is about 400 millimeters right now. We got a question from Kathy Anderson. They're asking about the southern hemisphere. They're asking, will the comet pass through the southern hemisphere? Yes, it will, but by the time it will pass into the southern hemisphere, you won't be able to see really much in terms of detail. It'll be further away from the Earth. Question from Kelly. They're asking, how did they come up with the names for comets? And that is a great question. Lots of comets are nicknamed based on the observatory that observed them. So the ZTF observatory, I believe, was the one that observed this comet initially, was the one that discovered it. The designation C comes from comet, so C, and then slash 2022, the year it was discovered, and then E3, the order in which it was discovered, and then nickname of the observatory or the discoverer. David is asking, I see a bright, shiny star in southwest from Cleveland. What is that? That is probably the star Sirius, the dog star, in the constellation of Canis Major. Got a question if I'm asking if I'm guiding. Right now, I am not guiding. I don't feel that my exposures are long enough to need auto guiding. I haven't seen any questions about this, but I love to address it. Why is this comet green, people might ask? And that is due to different chemical elements that are within the comet's tail being excited by the sun, specifically cyanogen and other trace elements. These elements are interacting with the sun and thus we get this beautiful green color. See another question saying, why do they make comets look so spectacular when all you see really is this? Comets are spectacular, and again, the images that you see online of this comet are all just, a result of heavy post-processing, taking tons and tons of exposures, and they also probably have the benefit of non-light polluted skies, which I do not, unfortunately. Although I have noticed if you do if you're on YouTube, if you can scroll back about 3 or 4 minutes, you can actually see the comet moving over time. Question from Scott Jacobs, how close to Earth will it get? About 0.2 astronomical units. Gloria asking, will it become any brighter? Yes, it will. The comet will continue to get brighter through February 1st. Around that time, unfortunately, the moon will be out, causing problems for visibility. After that, the moon will begin to move away, but unfortunately, the comet will also begin moving away from the Earth and will begin to diminish in brightness. We figured tonight would probably be the best night to be able to see it because further nights will have interference from the moon. What do you? A question from Facebook, and they're asking, what do you recommend for magnification to see this best since it is a lower light object? And that is a fantastic question. Generally speaking, with lower light objects, you want to have relatively little magnification because the comet is a dim comet. I would say a magnification of around 25 to 50 times normal magnification is probably where you want to shoot for. You definitely want a lot of aperture. I got a question on YouTube. They're asking, from a major city, do you think you can see this through a telescope, or would only a 10 to 20 second exposure picture reveal it? That's a great question. If I were to bet on it, I would say it is unlikely that the comet will be visible in your skies if you live in a big city, like for example New York City. That being said, an exposure definitely would bring it out. Question from 1 to 10, how much do you like to observe the universe? Is an 11 possible, perhaps? I love astronomy. It's one of my passions in my life. For those who are wondering if this is the first time you've ever tuned into a stream, this live stream is being brought to you by High Point Scientific. You can check out our website, www.highpointscientific.com, for telescopes, astrophotography, and more. There you will find all of your astronomy and telescope needs should you be able to wish to purchase a telescope to be able to photograph this comet. Question from Dave. They're asking, what direction should I look? You should look directly north. This comet is very close to the north celestial pole in the constellation of Ursa Minor tonight. Again, its magnitude is pretty faint, about magnitude +5. So that is only a little brighter than the planet Uranus, folks. So you're going to need if you really want to get a good view of this comet, you're going to need a telescope more than likely, or a pair of binoculars. Fortunately, unlike Uranus, it is also a very diffuse object. Question on YouTube, they're asking, could I see the comet from Bortle 4 to 5 skies? Yes, you should absolutely be able to see the comet from Bortle 4 to 5 skies. Let me see if I can play around with some settings really quick. Probably just saw my mouse scroll by there. Try not to have the mouse in the field of view, but sometimes, unfortunately, it's unavoidable. Right now, we're doing about 60 seconds with an ISO of 200 for you photography nerds out there. I think that's good. I can try zooming in a little bit. There we go. That's a little bit better. There you get a better idea of the sort of the green colors in the comet. Just crop it a little bit better here. And then I can just adjust the image here just a hair, fill up more of the screen. I think that's better. I hope you guys agree that's a little bit of a better view than what we were looking at earlier. As you can tell, it's a very, very faint comet, but hopefully over time we should be able to see more of that movement. Actually, what I'll do for this stream, we have another exposure coming in about 20 seconds or so. I'll put my cursor on my screen if you can see it. My cursor's right here. Whoops. Hold still. My cursor is right there, and when this exposure comes in, you might be able to see the comet move. And I always think that's really cool to see, knowing that objects in our solar system are moving. But we should hopefully be able to see a little bit of a jump in the position of the comet. So right now that exposure just finished up, and we should be able to get a new image in here shortly. There you go. If you have a keen eye, you might have just noticed the comet just jumped a little bit, and that is a result of the motion of the comet. So the comet is moving throughout the inner solar system, and we're seeing that motion, and that's just so cool to me. Anyways, I'll get the mouse out of here. Question on Facebook asking, what do you think the maximum brightness around February 1st will be? And that, I will say, around magnitude +5. So not much brighter than it is now, but a little bit brighter. But again, you'll also be fighting the moon as well on it. See a question asking, what are comets made of? And that's a great question. Comets are, generally speaking, sort of frozen leftovers from the formation of the solar system, and they're usually made up of dust, rock, and ice. A lot of ice, as a matter of fact. Some suspect that our water from in the oceans might have actually come from comets at the very beginning of the solar system. I personally don't believe that. I believe it's more likely the water was already there when the Earth was formed, but it is possible, and just gives you an idea of how much water is on some comets. Great questions tonight. Again, if you want to learn anything about astronomy in the nighttime sky, and you have a question about this comet that you just feel like I haven't addressed, please feel free to post it in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. If you're just tuning in, we've been live streaming a view for about 10 minutes here of Comet C/2022 E3 ZTF, or as the media likes to call it, the Green Comet. Question on Facebook asking, so are all these lovely clear public images with a bright green doctored? I'm not seeing any of the color coming through here. They're not doctored. They're a result of stacking. And so what stacking is, what astrophotographers do is they take a bunch of frames of an object, right? And they overlay those frames. What that does is increase what's called the SNR, or signal to noise ratio. By stacking more and more images, you increase the signal while decreasing the noise. And when you do that, you're able to do things like stretch the image, remove a gradient from the background to increase the contrast, and things like that. So you're not seeing doctored images. What you're seeing is post-processing and work, and all astrophotography is like that, and comets are no exception. Ash asking on Facebook, will this comet be visible throughout the weekend? And it absolutely will be. Again, you will be challenged by the moon, which is approaching its first quarter. But you should be able to see this comet. Look due north towards the constellation of Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. Brian is asking, where is Polaris? So Polaris is one of the brighter stars in the constellation of Ursa Minor. To find Polaris, there's a couple of different ways you can do that. You can first find Polaris by finding where the two pointer stars. These are two bright stars in Ursa Major, Merak and Dubhe. And I apologize, my star pronunciation has never been good. When you find these two pointer stars, draw a straight line between the two, and eventually when you land upon the next brightest star, that should be the star Polaris. I see a question from Angie, and they're asking, how large is this comet? To be honest, I don't know offhand, but comets can be huge objects. The core itself, the nucleus, is probably no bigger than 2 or 3 kilometers across, if that. Actually, I'd say less than a kilometer for this comet. But the tail and the nucleus of the comet can extend many times the distance between the Earth and the Moon. Adam is asking, is it low in the sky or middle? I would say right now it is definitely sort of middle. It's about 35 degrees above the horizon. For me, at least. Buddy's asking, will it be visible in the Philippines tonight? Yes, it absolutely will be visible from the Philippines. Again, this comet will be visible from the entirety of the northern hemisphere. Ross is asking, can you see this comet in the southern hemisphere? Unfortunately, as of right now, the comet is not visible below the equator. It eventually will make its way to be more visible in the southern hemisphere, but by the time it does, it'll be much dimmer and much harder to observe. See a comet coming in on YouTube. They're asking, is this comet's orbit at a similar plane to the planets? That is a fantastic question. I love that question so much. And the answer to that question is no. For those who are wondering what they're talking about, all planets in the solar system follow what's called the ecliptic. And it's basically, you can draw a line between all of the planets in the nighttime sky. You'll notice they sort of follow that line. That's the ecliptic. Comets, on the other hand, are oddballs, and they come in inclined relative to the ecliptic. This comet is heavily inclined. I don't remember what the inclination is off the top of my head, but no, this one is not coming in at a similar plane to the planets. As a matter of fact, there are some comets that orbit retrograde relative to the planets, including Halley's Comet. That'll be that was visible last in 1986 and will be once again visible in 2061. I'm really looking forward to that. I don't know how old I'll be in 2061, probably sometime somewhere in my 70s, but really looking forward to seeing it when I get the chance. And you can see that comet slowly shifting through the field of view. Again, keep the great questions coming, guys. Melissa is asking, are any of the stars in this image part of a constellation? Yes, they are part of the constellation of Ursa Minor. Marilyn asking, where am I located? I am located in Tampa, Florida. Speaking of locations, I love it when I hear where people are watching the live stream from. So do me a favor and comment in the chat where you're watching this live stream from, and I'll try to shout it out as it comes across. We've got Dennis checking from Alberta. You'll have a lovely view of the comet from Alberta. Angie's checking in from Southern California. Jones checking in. Oh, lots of people checking in. Ash checking in from New York. Brian checking in from Portland. Beverly checking in near Jacksonville, Florida. Cody checking in from what I'm assuming is a very cloudy Michigan. Marilyn checking in from Arlington, Virginia. Casey checking in from Chicago. Very cool. Axel checking in from Rifle, Colorado. Again, if you're new to the channel and you're interested in checking out live streams of celestial events like lunar eclipses, this year's solar eclipses, this is our first live stream of 2023, but we're hoping to do many more live streams, including the annular eclipse in October. But if you're new to this channel, check out our YouTube channel, give us a subscription, like the video. That sort of helps boost the algorithm in our favor and gets more people to tune in and get inspired about the universe in which we live. But we have lots of exciting live streams coming up this year. I believe our next live stream is going to be a view of some different winter objects we can see this time of year. So that'll be things like the Orion Nebula, the Horsehead Nebula, and we'll be using some fancy narrowband filters to be able to observe that. We got views of galaxies coming up, and then obviously on October 14th, we're going to try to live stream the view of the annular total eclipse directly in the path of totality. It definitely is cool though if you just go fast, if you just rewind about 5-10 minutes in this stream, you can really see the comet moving, especially since I zoomed in. Got a question from John Carter on Facebook, and they're asking, would it be fair to say that comets lose some of their material after each trip around the sun, depending how close they get? It would absolutely be fair to say that. Comets are definitely losing their material left and right. And just removing a spam comment real quick. To answer your question, John, comets are definitely losing their material. There are some comets out there in the solar system that we know are dead comets, so it's comets that were no longer active but orbiting close to the sun. And some comets actually decide to make a death plunge into the sun, or so close to the sun where they are ripped apart by the sun's gravitational forces. Melissa's asking about that annular solar eclipse I was talking about. That will be visible across portions of the western United States going into Texas and into the Gulf of Mexico. Some also plunged into Jupiter, quite spectacularly, as we saw in 1994. Very good point on YouTube. Comets are truly spectacular things to behold in the sky, especially great comets. Rick checking in from Northern Virginia, they're saying, I collected some good subs for a couple of hours. Unfortunately, clouds moved in about an hour ago. Calling it quits for tonight. Thanks. Well, Rick, we hope you got some good shots, even if clouds rolled in. We definitely were fighting some clouds here as well. And we look forward to seeing your images. Again, if you have any images of the comet you wish to share with us, use the hashtag HighPointScientific on Instagram, and we will share it. Nathaniel's asking, when will the comet reach Mars? So the comet is already within the orbit of Mars. It is closer to Earth at this point than it is Mars. John is asking, what is the field of view here seen in arc seconds? I can't tell you what it is in arc seconds. I can tell you what it is in degrees, and I would say about 3 or 4 degrees right now. It's a 400mm lens with a full frame camera, so the field of view is going to be pretty large. Hello again, everybody. Kyle here with High Point Scientific. You've been enjoying views of Comet C/2022 E3 ZTF, also known as simply the Green Comet, because comets have really weird names sometimes, and this is certainly one of those occasions. And if you scroll back in time about 10 minutes from now, you can see a noticeable change in the comet's position, showing its motion against the background sky. Again, if you're looking to find this comet, you can look towards the constellation of Ursa Minor, the Big Dipper, and you will be able to spot the comet. Over time, the comet is going to change in its position throughout the nighttime sky. Eventually, it will transition over to more the constellation of Auriga and then towards Orion, making its way south. And unfortunately, at the same time, it will also begin to move away from the Earth and thus diminish in brightness. This is not a spectacular comet by any means. It is definitely one of your more garden variety comets, I like to call it, but it is still a good comet nonetheless. If you've been going outside during the stream and trying to get a peek of the comet and disappointed, unfortunately you're going to need a little bit more than just looking north and hoping you can see it. You're going to need probably a good star chart. You can get a good star chart on your phone. An app like Stellarium or Sky Safari are great planetarium apps that you can use to be able to observe objects in the nighttime sky. You're also going to want some sort of optics like a telescope or a pair of binoculars. Those two will definitely help improve your view. And again, you're probably going to see something like this. So what you're seeing here, again, is more accurate and a more faithful representation of what you'll see through a telescope than some of those pictures you're going to see online of this comet, including the one we're going to post once we're done processing these photos. I got a story from Dave here, relaying some of his observation histories, and Dave says, I observed comet C/2022 E3 ZTF for the 5th time from the Astronomical Society of Harrisburg's Naylor Observatory on Friday night. I used a Celestron Noble 8x42 and Canon 15x50 binoculars and the Naylor Observatory 17-inch f15 classical Cassegrain at 116 and 170 times magnification, and its 5-inch f5 finder scope. That's a great story, Dave. Anywho, if you have any comments in the chat, please feel free to post them. We'll probably be live here for about another 10 minutes or so. But until then, I'm going to drop off and play some relaxing music in my absence. Well, a good early morning again, everybody. My name, once again, is Kyle. I'm with High Point Scientific, and you've been enjoying a live view of the bright, well, not so bright, the little dim green comet C/2022 E3 ZTF as it cruises through the nighttime sky. We are probably going to be wrapping up here in just a few minutes, but looking to see if there's any new questions coming through the queue that have not already been answered. Looks like I haven't seen anything new pop up. So if you have a question about the comet that you don't feel has been answered, feel free to ask. This is your last opportunity. But if not, we'll be wrapping up here shortly. And again, we have tons of live streams coming up this year, including, and most importantly, the annular eclipse visible over the western United States on October 14th, 2023. So bust out your old solar eclipse glasses because there is another solar eclipse coming to the United States this year, as well as other really interesting and unique live streams filled with tons of information about the nighttime sky coming through our telescopes. But until then, my name is Kyle. I'm once again with High Point Scientific, and I will be signing off and leaving you with some music to relax to and enjoy this view of the comet.